from New Orleans, Louisiana. And the title of my thesis is Feeding Your Community from Home. Okay, the community that I'm talking about is my community, New Orleans, Louisiana. Some of you all might have been to New Orleans before. If so, you might have been in this area right here. And some of you might have straggled down to this Bourbon Street area. But the area that I'm talking about is right here, the Ninth Ward area. This is the area that I was born into. And this is early New Orleans, just so you get an idea of how we strongly value our community. The problem that I'm addressing is the problem that can only be solved by full community engagement. So we get an idea of what New Orleans used to look like. And this is an area not too far from the Ninth Ward area that was rebuilt. And you get a sense of community. We're a real big outdoor community city where people participate, people engage each other. We see a little bit more, and then this was the catastrophic accident that happened not accident, but storm that happened in 2005, Hurricane Katrina. And we see how this kind of affected the community. But even after that, as time has gone on, we've been able to rebuild and help restore the community. And that's even a picture of me with my family, my community, so you can understand how we actively engage these spaces, these porch spaces, these outdoor spaces. And this is the Ninth Ward community, the upper Ninth Ward to be in particular. This is not like the famous or infamous lower Ninth Ward community, but this is right across from it. And this is a particular block that I decided to study. The reason I decided to study this block was because this was a block right here in the upper Ninth Ward community, which did not receive as much damage as the lower Ninth Ward community did, but it's right here along this major street, North Claiborne Avenue, which goes throughout the majority of the city and stretches into the Ninth Ward. So I wanted this project to be one that I would see that would be in an area that received a lot of traffic, so that it will hopefully inspire other parts of the city or people from other places to begin to pick up on these same type of things that I want to place on this block. And this is the major access across the bridge right here, where you see the canal at. Get some views of the community. As you can see, there's a few gaps inside this community where homes once were. These homes were either destroyed or either they weren't taken care of for so long that the city came in and took these homes down. The problem that I was facing was that the spaces for subsistence farming without these communities have become extremely limited due to the rise and fall of population inside of these areas. The city has had times where they've had a large population, they've built a lot of homes for people to live in. And then there have been times when people have left these homes and these homes have gone unattended to, which is why we have those gaps that we see now. And also the seasonal flooding. Outside of major storms, throughout the year we have flooding that comes through the city. And what it would do is people who have crops or people who are growing something will have the flood season come and then they'll lose their crops, they'll ruin the land. And then people will say, well, next year we won't do that again. Subsistence farming that I mentioned it's the practice that we see sometimes in some rural places where people grow and they harvest food, they have livestock for their family so that they can provide for them throughout the year. And we see this will be a traditional space. If anyone's familiar with farming, you know you need a lot of space so you can be able to get this to work properly. If you're lucky enough in this area, you will have a space about this big in between your home. But, and we can see it. This is some pictures of the block that I'm working with. You can kind of see how you have this open line right here, and you can kind of see where you have these homes stacked right next to each other. We don't have that much space at all in between each other. The claim is, though, that there's an architectural solution that can be able to provide subsistence farming and be able to blend it within the building envelope of that community. So I do believe that this space right here does hold some value where we can be able to get this type of system working by the use of vertical farming, which is a technique that takes use of space that typically wouldn't be used right here. You do have windows, you do have some functions right here. But I believe if used correctly, you can be able to get this to have a pretty strong system that will also be able to withstand threat of a seasonal flood. These are the case studies I looked at. And from each case study, I grasped one strong idea that I want to be able to try to regenerate inside of my different solutions. This is a group of people inside New Orleans who use the Vertifarm system. And from this group, I got an idea of ingenuity. This is an aeroponic, hydroponic system that are able to grow in these flowers, different types of vegetables or different other things that they're able to grow inside of the city areas where they don't have that much surface area on the ground. They actually grow those things above some of the grocery stores that take them right downstairs below. This right here is a shoe rack garden, and from this one, I grasped the idea of practicality. This is something very popular amongst the do-it-yourself community People who simply have shoe racks inside their homes that they decide to put to another use. They grow inside these things, they're able to move these things from different areas, they're able to easily harvest from these things with very little amount of money input taken. This right here, we had a Vietnamese community that came to New Orleans, and these people, they decided to grow all over the neighborhoods inside around their home. They've been able to grow. And from this, I took creativity. They used the front yard, the backyard, all over, they were growing. This is, I got from the people in a practical action group, which goes and try to help out places that have been severely hit through different issues. In Bangladesh, they get a lot of their food from growing it themselves. They've had to deal with a lot of flooding. What they've been able to do was, they've been able to create this system right here from natural resources inside the community that will actually float. And it will flow throughout the flooding season. And what I got from this case study was adaptability. Being able to adapt to the environment around you with using the resources around you. The next group, not that far from where I'm using my study block, was put together the Float House, which is inside the Lower Ninth Ward. And this was a house designed with the Brad Pitt Make It Right Foundation, which is a bunch of architects who all teamed together to try to be able to put in houses inside of the area that would be affordable homes. And what I took from this case study was the idea of action, taking the action the next step forward, seeing how you'd be able to actively be able to embrace the changes that were coming ahead. And so as we begin to look at the block, this is the block that I have, and we begin to look at the spaces that I have availability for inside this block. I have large spaces where I once had homes and they're now open lots. I have medium spaces, which are some of those spaces that were in between homes. There may be parking spaces, or maybe a small field on the side of these homes, or maybe in a space where they have a shed. And then I have small spaces, which are these even smaller spaces, and some spaces where you don't have that much space at all. So these are the three spaces that I begin to look at. I use this so I can kind of have a limit of boundaries that I can work within. And then these are the different ideas I was able to come up with. I had a lot of them, but I narrowed it down to my big four. First, elevate. Elevate takes use of space where you don't have that much space at all. This is one of the systems I had in place where you have a small space, where it's essentially a platform that will go above and then would allow people to be able to form above the roof lines of their homes. Next, I have float. I took float from the people in Bangladesh, which uses some of the natural resources around New Orleans, such as bamboo sticks, to kind of create a guided post where you would be able to have a garden that would float on something such as styrofoam. So when the threat of flood came, it would simply be able to float and ride within those posts, and when the flood went away, it would sink right back down to the ground plane. And then I have roll, which kind of works similar to a Ferris wheel, but it just takes simply the thought of using that vertical element, of that space in between, where you'd be able to grow things that would be able to sit on a carriage, and then you'd be able to roll them as you would need to harvest from them or move them so that certain ones would be able to get more sunlight. And lastly, Rise. Rise was the one that I decided to stick with the most and further develop because it was that one that I felt that took action. It works similar to how the Rise door would work, where it would be able to rise and extend over the roof structure of the home. And this would allow people to be able to harvest from it when it was down, or just have it down and collect sunlight. And if the sunlight was low in a certain part of the year, they'd be able to have it rise up above the home and be able to gather more sunlight from that area. Or if it was threat of a flood coming soon, you'd be able to rise your structure and then be able to come back to it later. And this worked within that medium space. So after looking at Rise, I decided to take Rise another step forward. I want to see how I would then be able to achieve that thing that I claim within my claim. How we'll be able to combine Rise within the building envelope of the home and the community.